My name is Marcello Roque, and I'm a father of three beautiful children, two boys and a little girl. My two boys, comes from my first and only marriage. With God's help, I was able to raise both of my sons as a single parent. I always make sure that I provide my kids with everything, not just material, but the most important thing, which I believe, which is emotional support. I made sure that both of my sons grew up with lots of hugs and kisses all the time, because that's how I grew up. At some point in my life, I was able to establish myself, financially. I have my own place. I have, a new career with the real estate. And at some point, I realized also that my children, they need a mother figure. Life was good just with us, but, children, I believe all children, they need to experience the care and the love of both of their parents. And for the fact that in my case, that was not possible, even though I always fostered the relationship between the children, my children and my ex-wife, who is still alive. She's still, diagnosed with schizophrenia. She always had a contact with the kids, supervised. I never used the illness against her. We're still very good friends to the present moment. At some point, I decided to, settle down, and I met this woman. She seemed to be the perfect, match, for me to start, a relationship with. And in the beginning, just like any other relationship, I think it was just great. There was a lot of passion, attraction, love, understanding for both sides. We got engaged, on Christmas time, and on the following Christmas, our child was born. It was a beautiful little girl who I adore to be a parent. She's so much like me in so many ways, and very bright. Even though right now she started to expose a lot of behavior issues due to all the trauma that has been caused to her during this whole 6 years in family court. I believe that at some point she realized that it was very challenging to stay with a person like me, since we were so different from each other, value, morals, what I'm saying, and she was not willing to really make the sacrifice that was necessary in order so we could, have a healthier relationship. And at that point, once I started to talk to her about breaking up, going separate ways peacefully, and make agreements such as, have 50-50%, because that's what every child needs. She could not accept the idea of separation, and this is when a lot of threats. She started to threaten me a lot, saying that she would leave and take the child with her, and I would not be able to see the child. We had an argument one day. She threatened me that she would take my child away from me, and this is when I told her, listen, I'm tired of your threats. All I want is to separate peacefully and have a shared custody, because the child needs both of us. And she was hesitating to make that kind of agreement with me. And the only thing she was to tell me was, no, the child just needs one home. You already have 2 kids, so leave that child for me. I was like, you're out of your mind. You're just thinking about you. You're being very selfish. This is not love. She never made any negative comment about the way I parent my kids. She always, used to speak very high about, what a good provider was and how I raised my kids, all that kind of stuff. And so I don't believe that it doesn't have nothing to do with the way I behave, or she tried to protect the child, or she believed that it was in the best interest of the child to keep me away from our child, but the only intent that she had is to use the child as a weapon to retaliate against me, because she did not accept the fact that I was throwing her out of my life. The relationship was not work anymore at that point. I tried church. She doesn't have faith, the same faith as I do. I tried couple therapists. She told me that, in the beginning, we have a conversation. I noticed that she has a lot of emotional issues. And I was like, listen, I want to save the relationship, but it's very important for you to start to go one-on-one therapy, because you do have emotional issues. You have that same problem with your ex-husband. You brought the same drama into my life. I never had that kind of problem before. You know, I think it's worth the sacrifice to have a child. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to be supporting you. And she said to me that she would never go to a therapist, because if they would diagnose her with any sort of issue, you know, psychological issue, and since our relationship was shaking, very unstable, she told me that she believed that I would use that against her in case if he would end up in court fighting for the custody of the child. Based in her past, before she met me, and the things that I have seen she doing during our relationship and afterwards, I strongly believe that this woman has some sort of a mental, psychological condition, which is very serious. You know, we're talking about a parent that does not have any compassion towards her own child, a miracle child. So I took my child and my son to the piano class. When I came back from the piano classes, she was sitting on the porch and two police officers over there next to her. As I got to my porch of my house, okay, the two police officers came up to me and they were like, "Sir, I would like to talk to you one-on-one." I was like, "Yes, what's wrong?" She was like, "Well, can you just give the baby to her so she can go inside and we can talk alone?" I was like, "Yeah, no problem." So I gave him the baby back to the mother. She went inside, and both of the police officers came up to me and they say, "You are being arrested because you committed an act of domestic violence." I was like, "This is not true." She threatened me before she left the house, but I thought that was just a threat. And I think she went a little bit too far with this, because she doesn't have no proof. She don't have no evidence. Okay, nothing ever happened. I have two sons over here. They are teenagers right now. We can ask them. They have been present in the house the entire time. And I have no history of being aggressive with any woman. And the police officers told me straight up, "Sir, one thing that I can tell is this. If a woman run into the precinct crying the way she was crying and makes such a statement the way she did, that she was physically abused by a man, we don't have no other choice but to make the arrest." I was like, "Are you serious? The guy's going to take him to the jail when I haven't done anything?" He was like, "Yes, unfortunately. Please just collaborate with us. Let's not have any problem. You're going to be fine." I was like, "Okay." So I had my wrist for them. They put the handcuff, you know. Both of my sons were traumatized, watched through the window, you know, and I was arrested on that day. You know, that was a huge red flag for me. I couldn't trust someone who put me in jail with a false accusation of domestic violence. Once you go through the process, you go before the judge, they set you up with a court day. They don't make a decision in the first appearance. And they let you go with a restraining order. So I could not go back to my own house. Can you imagine not being able to go back to your house because the woman who's planning to cause harm on you, is staying in the house, even though we're not married, it's not her house. And she was also, both of my sons, which is not her child, was under her care. You know what I'm saying? How much I was worried and concerned about the safety of both of my children. You know, and the child that we have in common as well, because at that point I started to realize that I was sleeping with someone that I don't have no clue what she's capable of. You know, there was no more trust, and I was completely desperate without knowing what to do. Many times during this process of 6 years in family court, she gave herself away, she exposed her true colors. Okay, the judges, the attorneys, the attorney for the child, they already saw that she's the problem. But the thing is, the family court system of the United States, they have an agenda in place. And this agenda, it's all about recognize which one of the parents is the problem. And they are trained for that. Once they recognize that, this is the one that they're gonna side by the entire time, and the other parents, they just give it the label of target parent, because this is a perfect situation. This is a perfect, profitable situation for them. Because every time they remove the child from a fit, protective, loving parent, like myself, and they put it in the hands of a narcissistic parent, an abusive parent, they know that they're gonna profit from that situation, which is all orchestrated by the family court system. Okay, it's all about the money. I don't know if you ever heard about something that's called Title 4D. So basically, the state, which is, in this case, the family court system, they receive trillions of dollars from the federal government as an incentive to broke families, to broke kids, for profit. It's very corrupt. Once you have the stamp on you, you are the target parent. They have the Star Chambers meeting behind closed doors. By the time you step inside the courtroom, everything, I'm saying, everything's absolutely orchestrated against you. It doesn't matter how much evidence you come up with. It doesn't matter how expensive knowledgeable your attorney is. Your private attorney is going to side by the judge because they have connection. There's a lot of conflict of interest. It is a mess. Okay, and there's no way those judges, gonna ever fulfill their purpose, which is to promote fairness in interest of justice. That's their duty, and this is something that's completely absent in the family court system room. One thing that I realize is this: in the United States of America, when you get married, it's like a triangle. That's you, your wife, and the state. Once your wife or your husband, whoever is the one protected by the court, decided, I don't want you anymore, and they learn about the silver bullet to get leverage over the custody case because they see there is no more hope for the relationship, okay, and they are the protected one. The father and the ex no longer has any say. Okay, the lover, which is the third party in the relationship, which is the state, they are the one who make the rules at that point, telling you, the father or the mother, when you should see your kid, if you can see your kid, how much you have to pay for child support, okay, how close can you get to your kid, and how much time you can spend with your child. And at that point, you don't have no more say. You don't have no more authority over your kids, over your house that you work for so hard to get it. Okay, anything that you work for. The agenda that the family court system has in place is to profit as much as they can, without count the cost of how much they harm the child, they harm the innocent parent. In my case, for example, the state got involved and they violated all of my constitutional rights in the very first day. This is one of our constitutional rights. It falls under the 14th Amendment. This is pretty much one of the first fundamental rights that the family court system violates in high conflict custody case for profit. Okay, you don't have the right to see your kids anytime you want, to talk to your child anytime you want, to go back to your house, and you have to pay alimony, child support. If you don't pay, you go behind jail. And I experienced this myself. That's how it is. Easy it is in our society for a woman to get a man arrested. Okay, after the incident of false arrest and everything, at some point I decided to file a petition. I requested a restraining order the judge gave me a refrain from. Okay, so on that day when she got served, everything that was in the court order that she was served that she could never do it, she did it. Okay, she threw the vacuum on me, she pushed me, she cursed me, she smacked me. She left the house so out of control to the point that she forgot the keys, she forgot her bag, she even forgot our babe. When she left, I locked the door. She came back, she started knocking on the door. I looked through the window, I was like, how can I help you? She was like, let me go back inside right now. I want to take the baby, my key, my bag is inside. I was like, unfortunately, until you calm down, you're not going to come inside. Calm down first, and then I'll allow you to come inside so we can talk peacefully. Okay, she was like, started to curse me all names. You will see what's going to happen. You're going to go to jail today. I was like, okay. I called the police. I explained them the situation. Police arrived at my house. She completely disappeared. When I made the police report, both of the police officers who came to my house on that day, they asked me, sir, you told me there was an incident where she smacked you, she threw things on you. I was like, yes. My son came in, he was like, Daddy, I recorded everything. I was like, no kidding. I was like, yes, I was afraid because she already put in jail with a false accusation. I was like, okay, let me see the recording. I gave it to the police officer, he saw it. She violated the court order. If she was served, she did this afterwards, she's going to be under arrest. You still want to continue to do the police report? I'm just letting you know how things is going to take place once you make the police report. You know, I cried a little bit, I got emotional, I called my family, I was like, listen, the police say that they're going to get her arrested, I don't know what to do. The police officer, they were a little bit in a rush. He was like, sir, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but we got to go, make a decision whether they're going to get arrested or not. One thing that I can tell is this, I see cases like this every day. The police officer told me, okay, I see cases like this every day. This woman, she will put her in jail if you don't put her in jail right now. I look at him, and this is when I made my decision. I was like, you know what? You can proceed with the police report because I need to be free so I can take care of my kids. He was like, well, you have all the rights because the video speaks for itself. I was like, okay. So, you know, I signed it, I finished the police report, I gave it to her. So at that moment, from that point on, okay, she was under arrest. She called the police at 3 o'clock in the morning after she came back home. She showed her ID with her address. And for the fact that she was a white female, attractive, the police opened the door for her, broke into my house, allowing her to get inside, even though she was already in the system. Okay, there was a warrant for her. So when my son called me, my heart started to race like crazy. I didn't know what to do. I was like, son, just stay on the phone. Don't hang up right now. I'm going to make a 3-way phone call right now. I called the precinct, 120 precinct in Staten Island. And I requested to speak with Lieutenant. I was really, really emotional at the time. I was like, listen, there's an emergency. You guys did some error over here. My son is under danger. I need to speak with the lieutenant. They put the lieutenant right away. I was like, listen, that is arrest for this woman. She committed domestic violence earlier. She already put him in jail with a false accusation. You guys cannot leave her by herself. There is a warrant already. The lieutenant, hold on, calm down, sir. Let me look at what's going on. He looked in the system. And then he got back to me. He was like, listen, I'm really sorry. Okay, I'm gonna call my guys right now to make the arrest. I can see, yes, there is a warrant for her. So she got arrested on that night. I went back home. And this judge, Catherine Di Domenico from Staten Island Civil Supreme Court, she made a statement to my ex. Don't worry. I called the DA office and I told them to dismiss the criminal charges. She looked at the judge and said, thank you, Your Honor. ACS case worker made it, they testified positive about me, saying that the house was clean, they have everything, the child is safe with the symbol, she's happy, nothing wrong. Even though the judge decided to make a ruling on the first appearance, where I was not able to say one word, she denied me to present any evidence, even though I was the petitioner, but I was treated like the defendant. Okay, her attorney was the only one talking the entire time. Okay, and her with a bunch of lies to the point that I got so nervous. You know when you don't know how to react, you don't know if you cry or if you laugh. So I was deprived to even expose some sort of emotional reaction because every time my lips started to shake, I started to smile because I was nervous. The judge looked at me, why are you smiling? She was right away exposing some sort of a bias against me. Every time I was to raise my hands and try to speak, she was like, today is not a trial, you're going to have a chance to speak. But she gave it a chance for her and her attorney to speak the entire time. We're talking about almost 3-4 hours, okay, of nightmare, torture, where I could not say anything. I could not speak up for myself. I could not present one single evidence. Okay, this woman, she was lying, a bunch of fabricated evidence. That judge, she not just violated all my rights, but she abused her discretion. You know, I didn't know what to expect from my ex anymore. And all I want in court is to have a judge who would interfere, okay, and promote fairness in interest of justice, because this is their job. They treated a first appearance like a trial. They violated all my constitutional rights, okay, and even though ACS was testifying on positive on my behalf, she made a ruling. She told me to go back to my house, pick up my child with a babysitter, because she just wants to see the child. So she gave me an order. We took a recession. I went to the house because I live walking distance, brought my child back, but I knew something was not right. And when I went back over there, they took the child from me, saying that there is some sort of a daycare inside the courtroom. Okay, for me to not worry about it, that my daughter would be okay. And then they went over and over with all the lies, okay, from her attorney and my ex. I was never allowed to say one word, to present one evidence. So, you know, on that day, I have my daughter removed from me, and I was treated just like a criminal by the time I left the courtroom, with 2 court officers, one each side, escorting me all the way to the exit door. I could not even say goodbye to my child. I don't even know how I made it, how I was able to walk from the court building to my house on that day. I was so depressed. By the time I got home, both of my kids, the first question was, where's my sister? I was like, they took away. But, you know, hopefully we're gonna see her again. I have been going through 6 different attorneys. I spent almost $100,000 with 6 different attorneys. A few appointed attorneys, which was even worse because they work for the court. You know what I'm saying? And they cannot burn the bridge between the connections and the referrals. I was able to, with God's help, I was able to get some victories during the, you know, the whole process of 6 years, where I went from having supervised visits with my daughter to have unsupervised visits every other weekend. Every time a judge violated my rights and they exposed corruption, they felt uncomfortable, and what they do out of retaliation is recuse themselves from the case and pass it on to another judge, which delays even more the process of the custody case. My daughter has been endured suffering, pain, trauma, and abuse for 6 years during the entire process. 6 judges recused themselves from my case. Since there is no more options of any other judge right now, I was before the supervisor judge. Her name is Alison Hamadian. And this is when I realized that there is no leadership inside the family court system in Richmond County. And the judge abused her discretion, called the DA office to drop the charge, throw the web on me, and drag me into the sandbox called the family court. Here I am 6 years later with a child who now 7 years old, exposed to behavioral issues, diagnosed with ADHD, taking medication, exposed by to so much endangerment and abuse with, in revolving doors, a revolving door of different boyfriends. My daughter has been extremely traumatized and abused by a few of them, and I have proof of that. My daughter right now, she has a full order of protection on her behalf and against me. I have been completely deprived by the family court system to protect my child, because the mother at some point in March of 2020, at that point I was getting very close, collecting all the necessary evidence that would give me the custody of my child, because she was being constantly abused by the mother, by the boyfriend, okay, and I was able to document everything. So basically the mother, out of retaliation, she went before the judge ex parte and she filed a petition of order of protection on behalf of the child and on her behalf in order to misguide the court, because she knew exactly what I was about to do it, and and eventually I would get the custody of my child. And this is exactly what the court system does. They once they decide to side by one parent, protect one party, and target the other one, it doesn't matter whether they have evidence or not. They take the lies and they turn the lies into evidence. They twist everything in a way that they can fulfill the agenda to continue to alienate the innocent parent, so they can drag the case as long as they, as they can, and continue to profit all the federal incentives. This is exactly what they did to me. So basically, a week ago, I have a court day, and mistakenly I took note of my court day. I believe it. I took the wrong day. I thought it was the 6th, June 6th instead of June the 3rd, and I didn't show up, even though I have an attorney that was appointed to me. I am pro se litigant, but since I don't wanna, they try to push it to have an attorney so they can, make you silent, because that's exactly what attorneys do with target parents in the family court system. Okay, they make you silent, and they pick and choose what you say on the record, based on whatever the judge wants them to do, because everything is orchestrated between them. So since I didn't show up, the judge, very quickly on that day, she gave the mother a final order of custody on default, even though that day, last week, we're not even supposed, the matter was not scheduled for custody case or custody trial. It's been 6 years, I never had a trial yet. 6 judges recused themselves from my case. We were supposed to talking about the family petition, the most recent family petition that I filed, because I was having an exchange with my daughter in February in the 61st precinct in Brooklyn, and the mother tried to smack me right in front of the child. She finally exposed her true colors on how aggressive she is, and that she's not afraid of me at all. Since I did not show up, she did not make any courteous phone calls like she did to the mother. Okay, and even though I live 3 blocks away, I could just walk distance from the court. I could be over there just in a few minutes without delaying the process. Okay, there was no phone call. I didn't show up. She gave a final custody order, full physical custody to the mother, and she dismissed my petition of order protection. And now I'm not capable to see my daughter, to have any contact with my daughter. And by the way, she dismissed my petition of order protection with prejudice, because she's afraid that I'm going to go back. Of course, they're going to file an order of a motion to vacate, But now I don't have a new circumstance to file another order of protection, because she want to make sure that my ex, she's on the top of the game. As you can see, it's all orchestrated to harm me, to harm my child, and for profit. This is not happening just with me. It's happening with thousands of parents across this nation, and I'm sure if you guys watching this, if you were a victim, you can relate with my problem, with the dynamics of the court system, during the custody, high conflict custody case. And I strongly believe that in order to prevent this to continue to happen, it's extremely important for us to have a transparency inside the courtroom. We need to have cameras. Okay, California, for example, they have cameras, but the corruption is still going on. Why? Because they still have this so-called immunity in place. And this is something that needs to be completely demolished. So we need to have cameras, so we can be just like a football game where we can rewind the video, pinpoint the problem, and hold them accountable. If a judge is placed in a situation like that, they will think twice before they violate anyone's constitutional rights, before they harm and traumatize and destroy the future of the children of this country. The state should be ashamed of what they're doing to, the American people, especially with the children. I strongly believe that the children are the most precious treasure of a nation. And I believe that whether you have a child or not, whether you have a negative experience with the family court or not, I believe that it is a moral obligation to protect the children, because the children are the future.